In the first episode, Queen Ohemaa Buruwaa, disguised as a maidservant, secretly observed the behavior of the contestants vying to marry Prince Obotan. Among them was Akosua Obinim, a humble and kind young woman who endured mockery and plots from her rivals, particularly Dufi. Dufi, determined to eliminate Obinim, manipulated a servant, Adjoa, promising her wealth and status if she poisoned Obinim's food. However, the story ended on a cliffhanger. Would Adjoa carry out the plan, or would she resist the evil scheme? Adjoa sat alone in her small quarters, the jewel Dufi had given her gleaming in her trembling hands. Her heart was heavy with conflict. The weight of Dufi's request to poison Obinim's food haunted her every thought. She'd been lured by the promise of wealth and status, but the memory of Obinim's kindness and humility made her hesitate. As she mulled over her decision, Dufi barged into her quarters, her face dark with anger. "Adjoa," she snapped, her voice cold and threatening. "Why haven't you done what I asked? I gave you everything, gifts, promises of fortune, and yet you delay." "My lady," Adjoa stammered, avoiding Dufi's piercing gaze, I cannot do it. Lady Obinim has done nothing to deserve this. She's a good person." Dufi slammed her hand on the wooden table, causing Adjoa to flinch. "Do you think goodness wins contests like this?" she hissed. "You are a servant, nothing more. If you don't do as I say, I'll make sure you lose everything. Your job, your dignity, your future. No one defies me and gets away with it. Remember that." Adjoa's heart raced as Dufi stormed out. She felt trapped, caught between fear of Dufi's wrath and her moral conscience. Tears streamed down her face as she prayed silently for guidance. Unwilling to rely on Adjoa, Dufi and her allies decided to take matters into their own hands. They devised a new plan to publicly humiliate Obinim and sabotage her reputation. That evening they set a trap in the courtyard, planting a stolen piece of royal jewelry in Obinim's belongings. Their goal was to frame her as a thief, knowing such an accusation could ruin her chances of winning the contest. As the plot unfolded, Queen Buruwaa, still disguised as a maidservant, overheard their scheming. She watched as one of Dufie's allies slipped the jewel into Obinim's bag while she was away helping another servant. Buruwaa's sharp mind quickly devised a counterplan. That night, as the contestants gathered in the courtyard for the evening meal, Dufie loudly declared that a valuable royal jewel was missing. "This is unacceptable," she exclaimed, her voice echoing with feigned outrage. "Someone in this house is a thief, and we must find out who." The servants and contestants looked around in confusion as Dufi ordered a search of everyone's belongings. When it was Obinim's turn, Dufi's ally smirked, confident the jewel would be found in her bag. But when the bag was opened, it was empty. The jewel was nowhere to be found. Dufi's face turned pale with shock. She stammered, This doesn't make sense." Unknown to her, Queen Buruwaa had secretly removed the jewel earlier and returned it to its rightful place. She stood silently in the background, observing the scene with a knowing smile. "The gods see what is hidden in darkness," she thought. "Evil plans often backfire." The failed trap left Dufi humiliated and furious. Her allies whispered among themselves, their confidence shaken. Meanwhile, Obinim, unaware of the danger she had narrowly escaped, continued her kind and humble ways. The royal house was abuzz with excitement and apprehension when word spread that the elders would be visiting in 2 days. This was no ordinary visit. It was a crucial part of the contest. The elders would not only observe the contestants' behavior, but also test their ability to cook, a vital skill for any future queen. It was a long-standing tradition in the Asempa kingdom that a queen must know how to prepare meals for the king and the royal family. This test was meant to reveal whether the contestants could manage such a task with grace and skill. However, the announcement sent most of the contestants into a panic. Many of them, being from royal families, had never stepped foot in a kitchen. Cooking was a skill they had never needed to learn, as servants and chefs always handled those tasks. Now, faced with the prospect of preparing food to impress the elders, fear and anxiety gripped them. That evening, a group of contestants, including Ohemaa Buruwaa and others, gathered in the courtyard to discuss their concerns. "This is a disaster!" Buruwaa exclaimed, wringing her hands. "I don't even know how to boil water, let alone prepare a meal for the elders." "Same here," Ohemaa admitted reluctantly. "Cooking has never been something I needed to do. How can they expect us to do this?" "They're testing us," another contestant said nervously. "They want to see if we're capable of taking care of the royal family. But if none of us can cook, we'll all fail." "Unless," Ohemaa began, a sly smile forming on her face, "unless we find someone who can cook to help us." The group fell silent for a moment before Buruwaa hesitated. "But who? Do you think any of us can suddenly learn in 2 days?" Oheemaa's eyes narrowed. "What about Obinim? She's from a humble background. She might know how to cook." The others exchanged uncertain looks before nodding. Despite their disdain for Obinim, they knew she might be their only hope. Later that evening, they approached Obinim in the dining area. Ohemaa, putting on her most charming smile, said, "Obinim, we've been talking, and we wanted to ask you something." Obinim looked up from where she was arranging plates for the servants. "Yes? What is it?" "Can you cook?" Buruwaa asked bluntly. Obinim smiled modestly. "Yes, I can cook. My mother taught me from a young age. It's something I've always enjoyed doing." The group exchanged relieved glances before Ohemaa spoke again. "Would you mind showing us? We'd like to see what you can prepare. It's just, we're curious." Though she found their request a bit strange, Obinim agreed wholeheartedly. "Of course, I can prepare something for you tomorrow." The next morning, Obinim got to work in the royal kitchen, her movements swift and practiced. She decided to prepare fufu with abunabunu soup, a traditional Akan delicacy made with tender greens, snails, and a rich, flavorful broth. The aroma of the simmering soup soon filled the house, drawing the contestants to the kitchen with curiosity and growing hunger. When the meal was ready, Obinim served each of them a bowl of steaming abunabunu with freshly pounded fufu. The contestants hesitated at first, but upon tasting the food, their faces lit up with delight. "This is incredible," Buruwaa exclaimed, her voice muffled as she eagerly scooped up another bite. "I've never tasted anything like this." Ohemaa, trying to mask her jealousy, forced a smile. "You're very skilled, Obinim. This is delicious." The others chimed in with similar praises, marveling at the flavors and the care that had gone into preparing the meal. They ate everything on their plates, some even asking for more. But as they showered Obinim with compliments, jealousy burned in their hearts. They knew that when the elders arrived, Obinim's cooking skills would undoubtedly set her apart, raising her chances of winning the contest. Deep in her heart, Ohemaa fumed. So she can cook too, she thought bitterly. If the elders taste this, they'll surely favor her. I need to find a way to stop her before it's too late. While Obinim cleaned up in the kitchen, unaware of the brewing resentment, the contestants regrouped to discuss their next steps. Though they had praised her openly, they couldn't ignore the growing threat she posed. "She's too perfect," one of them muttered. "If she keeps this up, the elders will choose her without hesitation." "We have to think of something," Dufia said, her voice low but firm. "We can't let her outshine us. Not now." What they didn't know, however, was that Queen Buruwaa had been watching everything. She had seen Obinim's genuine skill and humility, and had also noticed the contestants' hidden envy. "The pot that boils with jealousy often spills over," she thought to herself. "Let's see how far they'll go this time." The following day, the contestants, burdened by their culinary inexperience, approached Obinim with a mix of humility and desperation. Dufia, masking her previous disdain, spoke on behalf of the group. "Obinim," she began, her tone uncharacteristically soft, "we've realized that our upbringing has left us unprepared for the upcoming test. We know you've been kind and skilled in many ways. Would you be willing to teach us how to cook? We have only 2 days before the elders arrive." Obinim, ever compassionate, smiled warmly. "Of course, sisters. I would be happy to share what I know. Let's begin immediately so we can all present our best to the elders." Over the next 2 days, Obinim dedicated herself to teaching each contestant a different traditional dish. She patiently guided them through the preparation of various meals, including fufu with abunabunu soup, a flavorful Ghanaian dish made from cocoyam leaves, smoked fish, and snails. Her selflessness and expertise transformed the kitchen into a place of learning and camaraderie. However, beneath the surface, jealousy simmered. Dufia, recognizing Obinim's superior skills, devised a plan to sabotage her. She approached a servant with a malicious request. "When Obinim prepares her dish for the elders," Dufi whispered, pressing a small pouch of salt into the servant's hand, "add this to her soup. Make sure it's too salty to eat." The servant hesitated, but, fearing Dufia's wrath, complied. On the day of the elders' arrival, the contestants presented their dishes with a mix of pride and anxiety. The elders sampled each meal, offering nods of approval and words of praise. When they reached Obinim's fufu with light soup, they took a bite and immediately recoiled, their faces contorting in displeasure. "This is inedible," one elder declared, pushing the bowl away. Whispers spread among the contestants. "How could the teacher fail while her students succeed?" one murmured, barely concealing a smirk. Obinim stood frozen, humiliation washing over her. She realized she had been betrayed by those she had helped. Fighting back tears, she excused herself and retreated to her quarters, where she wept in solitude. Queen Buruwaa, still in disguise, had observed the treachery unfold. She chose not to intervene, believing that true character would reveal itself in time. Dufia, basking in her perceived victory, was declared the best cook of the contest. Yet, as the Akan proverb goes, the one who climbs a good tree always gets a push. Obinim's genuine kindness and integrity had not gone unnoticed by all. The true test of character was far from over, and the consequences of deceit were yet to be fully realized. In the days that followed, the atmosphere in the royal house grew tense. Obinim's isolation deepened as she grappled with the sting of betrayal. Meanwhile, Dufi and her allies reveled in their temporary triumph, unaware that their actions had set the stage for their eventual downfall. In the Akan tradition, it is believed that no one shows a child the supreme being. Similarly, the truth, like the sun, cannot be hidden forever. The day following the cooking contest, the atmosphere in the royal household was thick with tension. The contestants, having witnessed Obinim's public humiliation, couldn't resist taunting her.
"How ironic!"
Dufi sneered, her voice dripping with sarcasm.
"The teacher who can't even pass her own test."
Buruwaa chimed in. Perhaps she should have focused on her own skills instead of pretending to teach us. Their mocking laughter echoed through the halls, each word a dagger to Obinim's already wounded spirit. She bore their ridicule in silence, her heart heavy with the sting of betrayal. Little did they know, as the Akan proverb warns, the stick that is used to hit Tachi is the same stick that will be used to hit Ba. Their scorn would soon come full circle. The following morning, as the elders prepared for their departure, they summoned the contestants. "Before we leave," one elder announced, "we request that each of you prepare a different meal for us." The contestants exchanged panicked glances. They had only mastered a single dish each, thanks to Obinim's earlier instruction. This unexpected demand left them floundering.
"What are we to do?"
Buruwaa whispered, her voice trembling.
"We can't possibly learn a new recipe in such a short time."
Dufi, her confidence waning, muttered, "This is a disaster. We're going to embarrass ourselves." As the reality of their predicament set in, some contestants resigned themselves to failure, while others frantically debated their next move. The elders, growing impatient and hungry, awaited their meals. In this moment of crisis, Obinim stepped forward, her voice steady but humble. "Honorable elders," she began, "I understand that I have failed you before, but I humbly ask for another chance to prove myself. Allow me to prepare the meals you desire." The elders exchanged skeptical glances. "You expect us to trust you after the inedible dish you served?" one elder questioned, his tone sharp. Another added, "Why should we believe you can succeed now?" Obinim bowed her head. "I understand your doubts, but I assure you, I will not disappoint you again." After a tense deliberation, the elders relented. "Very well," the eldest among them declared. "This is your final opportunity. Do not squander it." With determination burning in her heart, Obinim retreated to the kitchen. Drawing upon her extensive knowledge and experience, she prepared 4 distinct dishes: jollof rice, kelewele, banku with okra stew, and yam pottage. Her hands moved with practiced precision, each ingredient carefully selected, each spice meticulously measured. As the aromas wafted through the air, the elders' curiosity grew. When Obinim finally presented the dishes, their skepticism was palpable. However, upon tasting the food, their expressions transformed from doubt to astonishment. "This is extraordinary," one elder exclaimed, savoring a mouthful of jollof rice. Another marveled, "To prepare such diverse and delicious meals in so little time, it's remarkable." The eldest elder nodded appreciatively. "You have not only redeemed yourself, but have surpassed all expectations. You are indeed the crème de la crème in cooking." As the elders lavished praise upon Obinim, Dufi and the other contestants looked on, their faces masks of forced smiles, barely concealing their seething jealousy. Their earlier triumph now tasted bitter, their schemes unraveled. The Akan proverb echoed in their minds. The one who throws a stone in the market will hit their relative. Their malicious intentions had come back to haunt them. Obinim's resilience and humility had not only restored her honor, but had also exposed the true nature of her rivals. The elders, now fully aware of the dynamics at play, made a silent vow to consider character as much as skill in their final decision. In the days that followed, the atmosphere among the contestants grew increasingly tense. Dufi and her allies, their plans thwarted, seethed with resentment. Obinim, though vindicated, remained vigilant, understanding that her journey was far from over. As the Akan say, wisdom is like a baobab tree. No one individual can embrace it. The events had imparted valuable lessons to all, underscoring the virtues of humility, perseverance, and integrity. In the dim stillness of night, Dufia and Buruwaa convened in a secluded corner of the courtyard, their faces etched with malice. Obinim's resilience and burgeoning favor with the elders had intensified their envy, compelling them to conspire against her. "Obinim's presence threatens our ambitions," Dufi hissed, her eyes narrowing. "We must eliminate her before she secures the prince's heart." Buruwaa nodded in agreement. "But how do we proceed? Our previous attempts have failed." A sinister smile curled on Dufi's lips. "Leave that to me. I have a plan." Under the cloak of darkness, Dufi slipped out of the palace grounds and ventured into the town. There she sought out a group of unscrupulous men, offering them a hefty reward in jewels to abduct the servant who had previously defied her order to poison Obinim. The men, enticed by the promise of wealth, readily agreed. The following morning, Dufi approached the unsuspecting servant with feigned kindness. "I require a particular herb for a remedy," she said, her voice sweet yet deceptive. "Could you fetch it for me from the town? It's not available within the palace grounds." Oblivious to the impending danger, the servant complied and set off towards the town. As she traversed a deserted path, the hired men ambushed her, dragging her into a concealed alley. Their grips were unyielding, their expressions menacing. "You will do as instructed," one of them growled, his voice laced with threat. "Poison Obinim's food, or your family will suffer the consequences. Speak of this to anyone, and they will perish." Terror coursed through the servant's veins. The safety of her loved ones hung in the balance, leaving her with a harrowing choice. With a heavy heart, she nodded in acquiescence. Returning to the palace, the servant was a portrait of inner turmoil. The weight of the sinister task pressed upon her, yet the fear for her family's lives compelled her forward. The next day, seizing a moment when Obinim was away bathing, she slipped into the kitchen. With trembling hands, she introduced the poison into Obinim's meal, her conscience screaming in protest. Unbeknownst to all, the malevolent act had been set in motion. The servant's actions, though coerced, paved the way for a tragedy that loomed over the palace like a dark cloud. In the serene hours of dawn, Obinim returned from her bath, her spirit uplifted by the day's promise. Unbeknownst to her, treachery had tainted her meal. As she consumed the poisoned food, a sudden excruciating pain gripped her abdomen. Doubling over, she gasped, "What is happening to me?" Her anguished cries reached the ears of Buruwaa, who rushed to her side. Seeing Obinim's distress, Buruwaa called out, "Guards, quickly, we must get her to the royal herbalist." The guards lifted Obinim's weakening form and hastened to the palace's healer. Despite their swift actions, the poison had wrought irreversible damage. The following day, Buruwaa, her face a mask of sorrow, gathered the contestants. "It is with a heavy heart that I inform you," she began, her voice trembling. "Obinim has passed away." Gasps filled the room. Dufi and Buruwaa exchanged furtive glances, feigning shock. Doofy dabbed at dry eyes, murmuring, "Such a tragic loss." Yet beneath her facade, satisfaction simmered. With Obinim gone, her path to victory seemed clear. In the wake of Obinim's untimely demise, the atmosphere within the royal palace grew increasingly tense. The remaining contestants, sensing a shift in the balance of power, began to form factions. Buruwaa and Doofy, each aspiring to become the prince's bride, found themselves at odds, with their supporters engaging in covert acts of sabotage against one another. Whispers filled the corridors as alliances solidified. Those who felt their chances of winning were slim aligned themselves with the more dominant contenders, hoping to secure favor in the event of their allies' victory. The once unified group of hopefuls was now fractured, each faction plotting the other's downfall. A week later, a delegation of elders arrived at the palace, their presence commanding immediate attention. Gathering the contestants, one elder announced, "The competition concludes today. You are all to present yourselves before the Royal Council, where the prince's future wife will be chosen." The contestants exchanged bewildered glances. Nana Ya voiced the collective confusion. "But we believed the evaluation had yet to begin. Apart from the cooking test, we have not been formally assessed." Another contestant added, "We anticipated more trials, more opportunities to demonstrate our worthiness." The elder raised a hand to silence the murmurs. "Rest assured, the assessments have been ongoing. Every action, every interaction has been observed. There is no need for further trials." The realization dawned upon the contestants that their every move had been scrutinized, even in moments they presumed private. The Akan proverb, "The chicken thinks it is dawn for itself, not knowing it is dawn for the whole world," resonated deeply. They had been unaware that their behaviors were under constant evaluation. As they prepared to face the Royal Council, the weight of their actions pressed heavily upon them. The factions, the sabotage, the whispered conspiracies, all had been noted. The true test had been of character, and the time had come for the consequences to unfold. A week later, the Asempa kingdom was abuzz with anticipation as dignitaries and families from neighboring realms gathered for the royal marriage ceremony. The event promised not only the union of hearts, but also the elevation of the chosen bride to the esteemed position of the prince's consort, second in authority only to the monarch. The palace courtyard was a spectacle of splendor. Elders adorned in resplendent kente cloth, a fabric renowned for its vibrant colors and intricate patterns, symbolizing Ghanaian heritage and royalty, took their places of honor. The air resonated with the rhythmic beats of traditional drums, accompanied by the harmonious melodies of royal singers and the eloquent verses of poets, all contributing to the day's grandeur. The 9 remaining contestants stood in a poised line, each hopeful yet anxious, awaiting the pivotal announcement. Their families, seated among the distinguished guests, watched with bated breath, dreams of prestige and power hinging on the forthcoming decision. An elder rose, his voice commanding attention as he proclaimed, "Today we gather to witness the revelation of the chosen bride for Prince Obotan. It is our honor to invite Her Excellency Ohemaa Buruwaa to declare the one deemed most worthy." As Queen Buruwaa approached the dais, murmurs rippled through the assembly. The contestants exchanged bewildered glances, recognizing her as the maidservant they had previously disregarded and mistreated. "Isn't she the servant we scorned?" one whispered, her voice tinged with disbelief. Another muttered, "How could we have been so blind?" Realization dawned upon them with crushing weight. The woman they had demeaned was, in truth, the revered Queen of Asempa. Their earlier arrogance and disrespect now loomed as insurmountable barriers to their aspirations. Visibly shaken, they grappled with the consequences of their actions, understanding that their conduct had likely cost them the coveted honor. In Akan culture, the proverb, "Insa bako inkura adiswa," one hand cannot lift a heavy load, serves as a poignant reminder of the importance of humility and collective respect. The contestants' failure to embody these virtues now stood as a testament to their unworthiness. As Queen Buruwaa prepared to announce the chosen bride, the weight of the moment pressed upon all present, underscoring the timeless truth that true character is revealed not in grand gestures, but in everyday interactions. As Queen Buruwaa ascended the dais, the weight of her revelation hung heavily in the air. The assembly, a tapestry of vibrant kente cloth and expectant faces, fell into a hushed silence, eager to grasp the unfolding truth. Esteemed guests, noble families, and cherished citizens of Asempa, she began, her voice resonating with authority and grace. In our quest to find a worthy bride for Prince Obotan, I undertook a journey cloaked in humility. Disguised as a maidservant within the palace, I sought to observe the true nature of each contestant, unfiltered by pretense or awareness of scrutiny. Gasps of astonishment rippled through the crowd. The contestants, now recognizing the maidservant they had scorned, stood paralyzed by the weight of their actions. During this period, the Queen continued, I witnessed behaviors that deeply troubled me. Acts of arrogance, disrespect, and malice were prevalent. Some among the contestants conspired to harm their peers, notably plotting against Obinim, whose only transgression was her humility and kindness. The revelation of such treachery sent murmurs of disbelief among the attendees. Parents of the contestants exchanged uneasy glances, grappling with the unveiled truths about their daughters. Queen Buruwaa's gaze softened as she addressed the families directly. Honored families, this experience underscores a vital lesson. Nobility is not merely a matter of birthright, but of character. It is imperative that we, as guardians and mentors, instill virtues of humility, respect, and integrity in our children, regardless of their royal lineage. The essence of true leadership lies in service and moral fortitude. Drawing upon Akan wisdom, she cited Okortor Enwu Anuma, meaning, a crab does not give birth to a bird. This proverb emphasizes that the upbringing and values imparted to children are reflective of their parents' teachings. With a heavy heart, the Queen declared, in light of the conduct observed, I must disqualify all current contestants from this selection process. The crowd in the royal courtyard sat in anticipation as Queen Ohemaa Buruwaa rose from her throne, adorned in her regal kente cloth, her presence commanding respect. She looked at the gathered families, contestants, and dignitaries, her voice resonating with authority and conviction. Today, she began, we gather to honor the woman who has proven herself worthy of becoming the future Queen of Asempa. This contest was not about wealth, beauty, or status, but about character, resilience, and the heart to lead with wisdom and compassion. I observed closely, and the one who excelled from every angle, the one who embodies the virtues of a queen, is none other than Obinim. Gasps of shock rippled through the crowd. The contestants, particularly Buruwaa and Dufia, were frozen in disbelief. Obinim? How could this be? Hadn't she been poisoned? Queen Buruwaa continued, her tone unwavering. Obinim possesses every quality needed to bring prosperity to this kingdom. She is not just fit to be queen, she is far better than I ever was. She has faced betrayal and stood firm, her heart untainted by the wickedness around her. The queen gestured to the entrance of the courtyard. "Bring her forth." To everyone's astonishment, Adjoa, the servant who had been coerced to poison Obinim, emerged, leading Obinim herself. Dressed in exquisite royal kente attire, Obinim walked gracefully into the courtyard, flanked by palace guards and followed by Prince Obotan, who beamed with pride. The crowd erupted into cheers and murmurs. Dufi and Buruwaa stared in horror, their faces pale. How was Obinim alive? They turned their gaze to Adjoa, who had been their accomplice. Queen Buruwaa revealed the truth. "What you did not know," she said, her gaze piercing Dufi and Buruwaa, "is that this entire mission was orchestrated by the palace. The servants you mistreated were not ordinary. They were members of the royal palace, trained to observe and report. They saw your plots, your cruelty, and your schemes to harm Obinim. Every step of this contest was a test of your true character." She turned to the guards. "Arrest Dufi and Buruwaa for their attempted murder of Obinim." The guards moved swiftly, and the two were apprehended. Their pleas fell on deaf ears as the queen announced their punishment. "You will serve as palace servants under strict supervision, learning humility and respect as you serve the future queen, Obinim." The crowd nodded in approval, satisfied that justice had been served. As Obinim approached the throne, she turned to the crowd, her voice trembling with emotion. "This is not my victory alone," she said. "It is the victory of love, humility, and the teachings of my dear mother, Mame Adobea, who raised me with nothing but faith and love." Mame Adobea, standing among the crowd, wept tears of joy. She never imagined that her daughter, who had faced so many hardships, would rise to such heights. Obinim embraced her mother, whispering, "This is all because of you. Your strength brought me here." The queen announced, "Mame Adobea will live in the palace, advising her daughter and continuing to be a symbol of wisdom and love." Years later, Prince Obotan ascended the throne as the King of Asempa, with Queen Obinim by his side. Together, they raised a beautiful family, their reign marked by peace and prosperity. Queen Obinim's name became a beacon of hope and inspiration, her story retold in every corner of the kingdom. As the Akan proverb goes, "The one who climbs a good tree is given a push." Obinim's journey proved that humility, courage, and faith could overcome any obstacle. The people of Asempa celebrated her legacy, a queen who embodied the very essence of nobility. In life's journey, we often encounter individuals who, at first glance, may seem insignificant or unimportant. However, underestimating others based on superficial judgments can lead to missed opportunities and unforeseen consequences. Respecting others, regardless of their status or appearance, is fundamental to building meaningful relationships and fostering a harmonious society. When we treat everyone with dignity, we create an environment of trust and collaboration. As noted, respect involves treating others with kindness, consideration, and empathy, regardless of their status, background, or beliefs. It's essential to understand that those we might undervalue could hold the keys to our future success. By dismissing individuals based on superficial assessments, we risk overlooking valuable insights and opportunities. The proverb, A crab does not give birth to a bird emphasizes that the upbringing and values imparted to individuals are reflective of their potential. Humility allows us to see beyond external appearances and appreciate the intrinsic worth of every individual. By practicing unconditional love and respect, we open ourselves to diverse perspectives and opportunities for growth. As highlighted, respect is like an invisible shield that protects us from harm. When we respect people, we don't insult them, steal from them, or take advantage of them. In essence, treating everyone with respect and kindness is not just a moral obligation, but a pathway to personal and communal prosperity. By valuing each person we encounter, we enrich our lives and contribute to a more compassionate world. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to Anant's Web of Tales for more captivating narratives. Share your thoughts and let us know where you're watching from. We appreciate your time and support. See you next time.